not a lawyer, but you can see the reason that there are consumer protections built in, and the reason that government steps in is when a company, through a contract that the person signing the contract didn't entirely understand, because we all know what small print looks like in these contracts, that people can be taken advantage of. We see it with payday lenders. We've seen it with Wall Street, and we're seeing it in the case of these confessions of judgment. And it's a problem for small business. And Senator Rubio and I are going to go to bat together to try to stop this.
You also have a bipartisan op-ed out with Senator Portman, of course, your colleague in Ohio, about GM. What specifically would you like to see done with regards to the situation unfolding?
I want GM, first of all, to recognize the damage this does to this community. It's not just the 4,500 workers that Mary Barra and GM and their board decided to lay off in Youngstown, near Youngstown, a place called Lordstown. It's also the 5,000 supply jobs that make the components that go into the crews. And then we think another 10,000 jobs in the region. I want GM management to understand the damage this decision does as they continue to make decisions to take advantage of the Trump tax law that essentially gives GM a 50% off coupon on their taxes when they move to Mexico. So I've asked the president to change that tax law and work with me to do that. I want to use those dollars that are going to GM, to their huge profits already, and recycle those dollars back into incentives for people to buy American-made cars. And then I want that will help us, I think, blunt some of the efforts by GM to move to Mexico.
They say things like it's the president's trade policies. They say things like they're moving toward artificial intelligence or autonomous vehicles. What's your response to?
Well, GM has said a lot of things, and I understand that the market for the smaller cars, gas prices are lower, tends to go away, but they've retooled this plant 5 or 6 times in the past since it's been there in the last 5 decades. They can retool it again, especially with the huge tax cuts. But instead of the billions in tax cuts going to invest in workers, to retool plants, to pay higher wages, to help their supply chain, instead of that, they've used literally $10 billion in stock buybacks in the last 3 years. And when taxpayers 8 years ago saved this company, clearly. This was the taxpayers of the Mahoning Valley and the whole country. They've gotten huge tax breaks since. They've turned around and invested a lot in Mexico, and they've invested a lot in their own compensation by doing their stock buybacks, which increases the price of their stock and which increases their compensation as executives at GM.
I want to ask you about Mexico in a second, but should Mary Barra have to testify before Congress and the new Congress?
I would like her to testify, sure. I think she's been open about meeting with us,
but she hasn't testified.
Behind closed doors, and she hasn't answered some of these questions publicly.
So a hearing might be.
I would like to see that. I don't make that decision, but.
Yeah. And then, with regards to NAFTA, do you think what do you think is going to happen in the first quarter with USMCA or NAFTA 2.0? I mean, are we just going to wait for him to rip this up to kickstart the conversation here on the Hill?
The conversation's being had. The NAFTA 1.6, it's not a big enough change to be 2.0, is really has moved the ball forward a little bit. It's an improvement over NAFTA, which one of my first votes in Congress was against NAFTA, but it's not done nearly what it should. To combat labor violence against workers. It's not done what it should in implementing and enforcing labor standards. It's not done what it should in the rules of origin. So there's a lot of changes that need to be made, and that's likely going to mean go back to the bargaining table with the now new president of Mexico, who's installed earlier this month, and make some changes. But NAFTA 1.6 is not good enough. I have said to Secretary Lighthizer, to Trade Representative Ambassador Lighthizer, a number of times he's got to strengthen trade enforcement. I know he's trying, but he's got to do it.
Last question on U.S.-China trade relations. The president, the White House says publicly that they don't think they need congressional approval on whatever ultimate deal they reach between the U.S. and China, the world's 2 biggest economies. Do you agree with that?
Not clear. I think the president and I supported his tariffs, but I've not seen him implement them in the right way. Understand, tariffs are a temporary trade tool but not a long-term policy, and you use these tariffs to get to that policy. The president hasn't really made clear, because I don't think he knows where he wants to end up with this, other than bring jobs home, and he's failed to do that with NAFTA. He's failed to live up to his promises of bringing jobs and opening manufacturing here. He's failed miserably with GM. So we need to see something more before Congress moves on China.
And that was Democratic Senator from Ohio, Sherrod Brown, speaking with our Kevin Cirilli. Now, coming up, how to invest during a downturn. We've got more from our exclusive interview with billionaire investor Stan Druckenmiller next. And as we head to break, we are, of course, holding on to our gains right now, but we've come way down from the earlier open. We gapped higher at the open, which hasn't happened a lot these last few days.
Interesting that Europe had a significant sell-off, as had Asia, but nevertheless we managed to move away, diverge from the rest of the European and Asian trading, but we don't seem to be holding on to it. Oil could be a key drag here. I mean, we're now down more than 6 percentage points.
Yeah, the decline keeps accelerating. We should mention as well that there is buying of safe havens like the 10-year Treasury, because that green color indicates buying in the actual security. Yield comes down to 2.82% as the Fed begins its deliberations on interest rates. That announcement coming at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
And indeed, we just had that breaking news from Sanders saying that Trump said that he understands the Fed is independent. This is Bloomberg.
Once I started looking for car insurance, it was a no-brainer. I switched to Geico and saved hundreds. That's a win. But it's not the only reason I switched. The Geico app makes it easy to manage my policy. I can pay my bill, add a new driver, or even file a claim. Woo! Hey now, that's a win-win. Thank you.
Switch to Geico. It's a win-win.
Remain nimble. Adapt. Continue to advance. At Barings, we help our clients move ahead and beyond. Discover broader asset classes and capital solutions. Examine deeper global insights and customized innovative strategies. Adaptability. The new look of partnership.
Grubhub is a delivery app that lets you order any food your heart and stomach desire. So you can order this, or this, or maybe a little bit of this. Order from over 85,000 restaurants nationwide. Grubhub, restaurants you love, delivered.
Every time we look back on this moment when we severed Singapore from Malaysia,
They said we couldn't survive. They said we have no labor, no infrastructure. Create the world's best airline? Engineer a plaster that heals artery wounds? A billion-dollar brand for gamers? They said it was impossible.
It's a noisy, chaotic, confusing world. If only everyone could see it more clearly. Separate fake from fact. If only we all understood what's really going on. The world needs another Economist reader. And now you can try The Economist in print, free of charge. Visit free.economist.com, call 1-855-500-0015, or text Economist to 99000.
Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary? At Touch of Modern, watches don't just tell time, they change the way you spend it. Bags are thoughtfully designed to never slow you down, and gear won't get in the way. And coffee tables are also refrigerators, keeping you at the center of the party. All it takes is a touch. touchofmodern.com.
I'm Mark Crumpton with Bloomberg's First Word News. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says the U.S. and China are planning to hold meetings in January to negotiate a broader truce in their trade wars. Speaking during a roundtable interview today at Bloomberg's Washington office, Secretary Mnuchin said the two sides have held several phone conversations in recent weeks. He also said that neither he nor President Trump were aware of the arrest of a senior executive from Huawei Technologies when they met with China's Xi Jinping for dinner on December 1st. The White House says the president is willing to work with Congress to avert a partial government shutdown. He's been threatening to veto any budget bill that doesn't include money for a wall on the Mexican border. A number of government agencies run out of money on Friday night. Organizers of an upcoming Vatican summit on sex abuse prevention are warning that the credibility of the Catholic Church is in jeopardy over the scandal. In a letter sent today to the presidents of bishops' conferences worldwide, organizers said the first step is, quote, acknowledging the truth of what happened. Pope Francis invited the church leaders to the February summit to respond to the sex abuse crisis. European officials and companies met with African leaders in Vienna today to discuss ways to increase investment in Africa. EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said that so-called Chinese aid is responsible for a massive increase in debt among African nations. Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz, whose country currently holds the rotating presidency of the EU, added that there should be, in his words, healthy competition between African, Chinese, and European companies. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters in New York, this is Bloomberg Markets That Close. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Scarlett Fu. We're 90 minutes from the end of the U.S. trading day.
We are indeed, and let's get some breaking news on Citigroup. We understand that the bank could face as much as 180